It's fine. Everything's fine. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Bunch, and I'm so thankful to see so many people out here. Can I get a raise of hands? How many people here were in active addiction with me? A lot of you. This is crazy. This is a miracle that we are here and sober today, and that we all love Jesus Christ. Statistics are not many of us make it out, and look at what God is doing. It's just so cool. Okay. Weird things are happening inside right now, so bear with me, but I'm not a crier, so. Oh, okay. All right, well, I'm going to share with you a little bit about my childhood. I'm going to start with BC, before children. I have 4 children. My life as a child was pretty amazing. We were really blessed. We went snowmobiling and jet skiing. I was raised by 2 police officers. My mother and my father were law enforcement. Yeah, not many of you guys have that story. I mean, some of you used with your parents, right? So I was raised in a really wonderful home. My parents ended up getting divorced separated when I was in the 4th grade, and that was really hard for me. I just remember thinking it was all my fault and struggling. I would go home from school. I used to be popular and play all the sports, and at that time in my life, I just got really depressed, and I remember coming home from school every day and just laying down in front of the TV with a bag of chips and a case of soda. So thinking back now, that was probably my drug of choice then. I've always struggled with my weight my entire life. It's been kind of an issue for me. So meth was my drug of choice. I celebrated 4 years clean on December 14th. Thank you. So I was an IV meth addict and shoplifter, and I quit smoking cigarettes August 9th of 2017. So that was way harder to quit than the drugs or anything else. I got my first job at Baskin Robbins. I was smoking weed in the walk-in freezer at Baskin Robbins, and then I'd come out and have my munchies. And I graduated high school barely when I was 17 from Central Valley High School. There was a point in my high school career where I was just failing everything. I left to go to a contract school. I was 14 years old when I tried meth for the first time. I stayed the night at a friend's house, and we snuck out, and I tried it, and we came back, and I couldn't close my eyes. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was like, wow, I can never do this again. I love this so much. Like, I fell in love instantly. I knew that I was in love, and I knew that it would be really dangerous for my life at that age. I ended up obviously not using daily at that point in my life, but smoked cigarettes, stole cigarettes from my mother. I just continued to make not the greatest choices. I barely graduated high school by the skin of my teeth. My high school shop teacher said that I was one of the biggest flakes he had ever met. But I walked and I got my high school diploma. After that, at that point in my life, when I was in high school, I had my first codependent relationship. Yeah, what's wrong with you? Let me fix you. So I couldn't fix him. Smoked weed, drank a little bit, and that just went nowhere really fast. And 3.5 years later, I moved on to the next codependent relationship. I was a functioning addict for a while. I did college at Spokane Community College. I had no idea what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be. I didn't love myself. I did really good for the first month, and then I was like, I can't do this. I can't smoke weed. I can't do what I want. So I left college. I was in another unhealthy relationship for 2.5, 3 years, and I got to a point where I was working double time, full time, overtime at Players and Spectators Casino, making really good money, and smoking weed and selling weed. And I left there and came home one day, and I was just like, I can't be more of a man than you, and why are you crying? I have to leave. So I left, and I went to my friend Lindy's house. And really unfair to her, at this point in my life, I started using meth on a daily basis. I lied to everyone I knew, ran away from everybody I knew or loved. I remember my dad called me one time and said, he was bawling, he was crying. He's like, where are you? Your sister doesn't understand why you're not here. She loves you, she adores you, she admires you, and she just doesn't get why you're not here. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, this is really sad. I need to go smoke a bowl. Like, just to not feel that. That is really heartbreaking stuff. And I didn't cry. I just went and I numbed. And I continued to numb, and I continued to live from couch to couch, from house to house, from insanity to insanity. My mom would call me. She'd track me on her phone because, of course, I was on her plan. I didn't have any money to have my own phone. I went and got my own phone so that she couldn't contact me. And that's so sad. I think to myself now, like, there was a point in my addiction where my parents reported me as a missing person. Like, they had no idea where their daughter was. Like, that is heartbreaking. I'm so sorry for that. Like, that is the grossest, saddest, if I think to myself about my little babies and not knowing where they were. For over a year, I was just gone, and I just hid. Because in my addicted, sick mind, I thought to myself, if they don't know where I'm at and what I'm doing, I'm not hurting them. Like, they couldn't be hurt. I've been witness to multiple shootings. I've been side by side with a dealer who's getting federally indicted. By the grace of God, I don't even know how I'm alive. Like, I've seen some of the worst things, been a part of some of the worst things. I've seen children eating out of garbage cans while I'm selling their mother a $20 bag of dope, and it's not even real, so they're going to be mad when we leave, and I'm like, this baby doesn't have, this is the saddest, grossest thing. Like, addiction is terrible, and we justify in our minds, and then we leave, and we go commit criminal activities. Shoplifting was a way that I was able to pay for drugs and support my habit. I had tools, I had keys, I could get electronics, I would layer up tons of clothes. When I met Tim Eli at the Rowan Oxford house, my son had every single pair of Nikes known to mankind. I had this purse, and it would expand like really big, but nobody could tell that it was full of stuff. But yeah, it was terrible. And it was another addiction in itself. Like, I didn't just have to pay for my drugs, I always had drugs. But it was just like this release, this high, this, I got to get away and get that adrenaline. That became a way of life for me. There was a point in my life before children where I was living at this house, and this guy there was tricking some lady out, taking her to the hotel and getting all the money that she was making. Thank God that I never did that. I remember coming home to that house one day, and this guy took a torch to my body. My entire body. I couldn't sleep without smelling burnt hair. At that point in my life, I was so terrified, and I was so sick, and I was so tired. I ran away. I called Tyler, who was the father of my first son. He basically picked me up and rescued me and took me out to Post Falls, where I stayed and probably slept for a month straight. I slept, and I ate, and I woke up, and I stole, and just to cope. And one day I went and I picked up 4 pregnancy tests from the store, and they were all positive, and I was just so in denial. I was like, no, and I threw them in the fire. No, that one was wrong. That's not true. I went and got another one, and I took a breath and said, I'm pregnant. Like, what do I do? I smoked meth my entire pregnancy with my son, Joshua. He is fine and healthy. He was born 5 pounds, 13 ounces. I left Post Falls, came to live with my father, and then from the hospital with Joshua, I went home to live with my mother at her house, and he was born a couple days before Thanksgiving, so CPS was on vacation. We came home a few days after with the CPS card on the door, and my mom said, what is this? What's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Well, I don't know. What's CPS? She's like, Child Protective Services. I'm like, oh, my God, nothing. It's fine. Totally fine. So, needless to say, they did an evaluation. They did a drug test. The baby was obviously high on meth when he was born. So from that point, I did a 30-day outpatient at Spark Treatment Services. Made it that 30 days, and then I thought to myself, why is my kid's dad not sober? Why is he not? So I continued to go out there, and I continued to be mad at him for not having his life together. So I continued to use. I continued to make bad choices. 30 days, I think, was the longest that I had been sober. And then I went right back out. And because I didn't have the skills. Treatment, I didn't learn anything about loving myself. I didn't learn anything about forgiveness. I didn't learn anything other than I got to get CPS off my back. So I did that. I got CPS off my back for a while. I don't remember what happened the next time I had to go to treatment. I believe my mother found boxes and boxes of needles in my room, up above in the cupboard, in the closet in my basement. And at that point, she said, she called CPS, and CPS required that I go to treatment again. No, I didn't have a problem, So, so I'm going to treatment again. I think this time it was a little bit longer than 30 days, but my mom was so kind to let me drive her car down to treatment. I'm driving her Chevrolet Avalanche, and I'm going to be late, and they won't let you in if you're late. So really quick, I drove by and I picked somebody up because they weren't going to let me in anyways. I was just going to be gone an hour. I'd bring the car back. Everything was going to be fine. But I didn't go back. I ran into my stepdad, who was on patrol. He's also a police officer. He's coming this way. We're going this way. The guy is driving. So my stepdad looks over and sees a man driving his wife's car, and he's not exactly sure what's happening or where it's at. So I don't know how the conversation between them went, other than I was supposed to be at treatment with her vehicle, and it wasn't there. So he turns around and he follows us, and we get away, and it was terrifying and fast and really dangerous. And I'm so sorry for that too. It's funny, but it's so gross. But what do you do? I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to pull over and deal with this right now. I got to go do the rest of my drugs, and then I'll deal with this later. It's just insanity. And if you don't know drug addiction, thank God, because it is the worst, most awful, terrible experience ever. The first time that I went to jail, I did a gestational diabetes test when I was pregnant with Joshua. You have to fast for 24 hours before you go in and do a blood draw, and then you do a blood draw every hour on the hour after that. So my mom was so kind to pick me up, drop me off at Sacred Heart to get my blood draws. I sat there and I was starving, and then by the time it was all over and said and done, I walked from Sacred Heart Hospital up to 29th and Freya, 8 months pregnant, starving, and I walk into the deli and I shoplift some food. No big deal, except it was because I had 4 IDs that were not mine, cards that were not mine. So this is 4 felony charges. I got 2 roll-ups when I went into prison because I was pregnant, so that was kind of neat. It was not fun. I was on isolation, keep separate, because my parents are on law enforcement and they didn't want anyone to murder me while I was in jail. It was really lonely, and there's nothing worse than being alone by yourself. You sleep, and then you wake up, and then there's nothing worse than that. And then after that point in my life, I obviously had a problem. So I just could not stop using meth. I just could not break the cycle. I had done other things, I had done pills, I had done marijuana. I had been a functioning addict for a while. I worked graveyard, I worked mornings. I had functioned for a while, and my parents clearly knew, they're cops, that something was wrong. Something's not right. But nobody wants to believe that their daughter is sick. Nobody wants to believe that their daughter or son is an addict and lying and cheating and coming home with bags and layers, and now you're bigger and now you're smaller, full of clothes. There was a point, I think what happened is I had borrowed a friend's car, and I got dosed, and my meth got laced with opiates, which I had never done. I was not a downer. I like to stay up. I like to stay moving. I like to be busy. Opiates make you slow down, make you fall asleep. I remember trying to go home with my son in the backseat of this borrowed car that I had, and I couldn't move. I was frozen. I was like, I'm just going to make it home. I just have to make it home. I parked outside of this bar where I was going to sell a bag real fast before I went home. I turned up the music really loud, so hopefully maybe somebody could hear me. I couldn't even figure out, I was nodding out. I was like, this is the weirdest thing. I don't go down. I stay up. This is so weird. I've never experienced this. And I tried to use my phone. I could not function. It was the weirdest thing. So I was like, I'm just going to make it home. I'm just going to get on the freeway from the west side and drive all the way to the valley. And I didn't. I drove, and I hit 2 parked cars. And I've never moved so fast in my entire life, snapped out of whatever I was going through, and I jumped in the back seat where my son was. The airbags deployed, jumped in the back seat, unbuckled my son, grabbed my son, grabbed all the stolen merchandise out of the vehicle, went and hid it on somebody's porch. It was the craziest fight or flight experience I've ever experienced. From that point on, I went to Triumph Treatment Center. It's an amazing treatment and recovery program. It's a 6-month inpatient for women and children in Yakima. My mom kept my son for 30 days until he can be transitioned over there with me. So you're in a home with a bunch of women who are also addicts, who are also struggling. It was good and it was bad. I took drugs in there with me. I wasn't ready to change. I knew when I was in there that this isn't the life that I wanted, but I knew that I wasn't done also. I met women in there who died when they got out. I met women in there, none of them today are sober. There was an opiate house for women who did opiates. There's 3 different houses out there. It's just, they try to teach you how to wake up at 5:30, make your bed, do all these things where you're functioning, and then set you free and you're out on your own. I got out 5 months later. I moved into an Oxford house and instantly started using there. I was going to Spark. At that point, I had learned how to pee clean to pass UAs and drug tests, to kind of just stay. I worked really hard at not getting clean. It's a lot harder to fake pee clean. You can't find anybody, when you're using, you cannot find one sober person to pee clean for you. Does that make sense? Nobody, because that's not morally right? That's how hard I had to work at it. There was also another house after that I went to, Transitional Living Center, here in Spokane, for women and children. I got in there, I don't think I was ever sober there. I think I used the whole time. One night, I went and picked up a dealer, and we got pulled over leaving a house, and he stuck a pound of meth under my seat. And the officer said, "Who is this?" And I gave him the guy's name, and he laughed at me and said, "No, it's not. Cooperate with me or you're going to jail." I'm like, "No, it's really his name." We both went to jail that night, and my mom came in to booking. That was more terrifying than anything on the streets I had ever seen. And I had bruises and track marks up and down my arm. And she didn't take me home with her. I went upstairs again into booking. I stayed for about 4 days. At that point, she kept Joshua. I was living out of my car. I was shoplifting continuously. My friend Mary Wilkins was doing the clean and sober thing on DOC, and I knew I was sick and tired of doing what I was doing. She was down at a bar, even though she was clean and sober, for her birthday, and I went to go celebrate with them, or at least tell her happy birthday. At that point in my life, she was hanging out with a friend, Carrie. This is the father of my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th child. And he was doing the clean and sober thing, and he was living at an Oxford house. And I kind of looked on Facebook, and I was seeing how awful his life was, and then I saw the timeline, and I saw the transition of God is so good, and God's getting better. And so I started going to Family of Faith. It was really weird. It was the most uncomfortable feeling. I'm like, why are all these people smiling? Like, what is wrong with them? What is there to be happy about? I had to leave this volleyball function at Family of Faith because everyone was so happy and there's food, and I didn't eat at that time. And so I ran all the way out to Barker to sell some more drugs, and then I could come back and kind of regroup. But something about it was so good. Like, there was this light. Like, there was this goodness. Like, I didn't know then, but it's God. This is where I met Tim and Shane at the Rowan Oxford house. And that was a really special time in my life. Tim had just gotten sober 8 years ago. I met you almost 8 years ago. Woo! Yeah. And then I was, Carrie said, "I want to be with you, but I can't be with you because you're not sober." And I said, "Well, I want to get sober, I just don't know how to be sober." So I would go there, and I would sleep, and I would try to get sober, and I would try to figure it out. And then, again, my mom wanted me to go to ABHS. CPS wanted me to go to ABHS. I had 2 months clean and sober at that time. I went to ABHS for 30 days, and I completed. I got out. I got pregnant with my 2nd child. And moved into my dad's home that he had just moved out of. So I've been there for 7 years now. I was sober from the time that I was pregnant with Jacob, because when you're sober and then you get pregnant, it's really easy to stay sober. So I stayed sober for 1 year to the date. I went and got my 1 year clean coin at Family of Faith, but they didn't have any left, so I just got nothing. So that was fine. I was like, okay. No big deal. So Jacob had to have been 9 months, and I dropped him off at a friend's house, and I went and got loaded. Carrie and I were on again, off again. I knew when I got with him that he had 2 children with 2 different mothers, but he was going to be faithful to me. It was going to be fine. He was going to change. I could fix it. And so that didn't happen. We were on again, off again. In between Jacob and my next child, Emily, he had another child. And we did this on again, off again, really unhealthy codependent thing. Let me fix you. I can save you. Everything's going to be fine. At the time when I had a year clean and sober, I remember we went to a women's breakfast that Alicia Doney had put on. And I remember my friend didn't show up, and I was really mad that she didn't show up because she was supposed to be getting sober, and she wasn't. And so I left, and I went to her house, and I told her I'd already gotten high, so she had to give me drugs. And she did, because she thought that I had, and I hadn't. So we do these things. Like, it's just the grossest thing. I mean, we make everyone around us miserable. I was like, I'm not selfish. I'm not a selfish person. Like, I would give anything for anybody. Like, clearly I'm selfish. Like, I'm breaking the heart of my mother and my father and my children at this point. I remember when my mom brought Joshua out to Triumph Treatment Center, he was so mad. I was so excited to see him, and he was so mad, and I was heartbroken. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, he is so mad at me. And he was only like 2 or 3 years old. He's like a little guy. And we affect everybody. We affect everybody that we know and love. At this point, I had gotten pregnant with Emily Grace, and I was not healthy. I was slamming at this point in my life. I was 6 months pregnant before the doctor said, before my OBGYN said, you have to be ready next time. I'm sending your UA in. So it was the worst. You feel so awful for doing drugs while you're pregnant with life inside of you. Like, there's nothing, for me, there was nothing worse than that. And you can't stop. And I have 2 small kids at home, and I can't sleep because I have to take care of my kids, and I can't stay up, I can't clean my house, I can't do these things, so we justify in our minds. And I just stayed high for 6 months. I was able to get clean and sober at that point, and then Emily was born, and she had some complications. She had sepsis. She was born with sepsis, which is bacteria. She was in NICU for 10 days. I got postpartum really bad, and after that I was supposed to go to school for dental assisting, and I was such a wreck. I just couldn't even function. I didn't know how to function. I didn't know how to wake up on time. I didn't know how to show up to school and learn with all these other pretty girls that were learning and doing smart things, and they're younger and they've got their lives together. And I just never knew what that was like. And then the day before, not the day before, Carrie and I had gotten back together, and then a shooting at my house occurred. He had shot at somebody out front of my house. 50 police officers swarmed my house. And we were both in active addiction. I had got pregnant. He had gone to prison. So he went to prison, and by the grace of God, that relationship ended. Because I couldn't stop it. Because I kept going back. Because I kept, like I deserved it. Like I wanted it. Like I was addicted to it. Like, this is going to fix me. Let me fix you. Like, it was just on again, off again, kicked in doors, knives through doors, like the most insane life. And it just isn't stopping. Like, what's the problem? And so it was me. And I was baptized February 15th, 2015, and didn't really know what that meant. I stopped shoplifting then. Yeah, thank God. But it was so cool because Carrie's like, no, God gave you that gift. He wouldn't have given you that gift. I'm like, no, thou shalt not steal. Like, that's in the Bible. It literally says, no, that's not what we do. We're not going to shoplift. So it was like changing things like that. And as soon as I committed and I talked to God and I said, I'm not going to shoplift anymore, somebody showed up with diapers from church. Somebody from church. We're going to be okay. Like, and my parents were well off, and I didn't want to ask anybody for help. And it's like, no, I got this. I got this. It's that pride that gets in the way. I got this. It's fine. I didn't have it. Like, we need to ask for help. We need each other. Like, nobody can do this on our own. Like, we need each other. Like, no other people are my people. Like, you guys are my people. The broken, the flawed, like, all of us need each other. Like, we can't do life with normal people. Amen. Anyways, glory to God. The codependent relationships ended, and God has completely transformed my life. I went to groups like Turning Point Open Bible, had a women's group where I met some of the most amazing women in my life who believed in me and encouraged me and loved me and spoke life and truth into me that I didn't even know was true or real or possible. Anybody else self-sabotage or like really hard on themselves or lie to themselves or like that was my life always, constantly. Like, I'm not pretty enough. I'm overweight. I'm this. I'm that. I believed all the lies that he was telling me and that I just believed about myself that are not true. Like, I am beautiful. You're beautiful. We're beautifully and wonderfully made. All of us. I did things like the Bible app, the Holy Bible app on my phone. There was a point in my life where I had 9 months clean and sober. I was taking care of Alicia Doney's elderly grandfather. I didn't want to, but I felt led to and I felt called to, and it was the most amazing, life-changing time in my life. We do things that we don't want to do and we probably should be doing. I got quiet time, which I didn't know because I had 4 kids. I got quiet time every morning. My kids went to daycare. I got time with the Lord. After that, I did this 12-step spiritual recovery through Mission Church, or it used to be Marabou Chapel. 12-step spiritual journey truly changed my life. I went into it thinking I was raised in AA. Like, I knew everything. God grant me the serenity, 12 steps. I knew all the things. But this was different. For me and my journey, this was healthy. This was, I thought, great, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to talk about the needle. I'm going to talk about my ex. I'm going to talk about all these things, the shoplifting. And it wasn't about that. It was that I was set free from all of those things. It was about focusing on Jesus and what he has done for me. It was about, step one, but biblically based. Like, this is just life-changing, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. I've done it 3 times. I'm now co-leading it with Beth here at the church, and you get out of it what you put into it. It's like, I don't have to work to earn my recovery because God already loves me. He already forgives me. He's already given me the grace and the mercy and everything that I need. But if I want to learn to live a different way, then I have to learn different stuff. I have to learn that I'm loved. I have to believe that I'm loved. I read I Declare by Joel Osteen, and it's like these words of affirmations that I just could never wrap my head around. I could never believe the things that he said about me, and then I read it, and then I read it again and again, and I believe that it's true because it is true. And you believe what you tell yourself. If you wake up and say, oh, it's going to be a bad day, then it's going to be a bad day. If you wake up and you say, I am not a drug addict. If you wake up and say, I do not smoke cigarettes, that was way harder than quitting anything else. That was the worst. Oh. And we can't do it alone. And so I am just so grateful for everybody here. I just wanted to share a couple of scriptures, if I could find them. No way can I read that. I lost my note cards. Yep. Like Matthew, I'm going to pull a Matthew. The human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? And for me, that is all of my codependent relationships. So deceitful, so many lies. And then another scripture that I have here is, if you think that you are standing strong, be careful not to fall. The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure. So, my dear friends, flee from the worship of idols. You are reasonable people. Decide for yourselves if what I am saying is true. And it's so true. And it's like, I know friends, and we all have friends in recovery who fall flat on their face. Like, why? Like, what were they not doing? We need each other. We need the honesty. We need the accountability. It's like something. Like, I mean, I'm not safe. I have 4 years clean and sober, and I can tell you right now that I never want to use another day in my life. I picked up a bag of meth off the floor at Fred Meyer walking through the store. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and the things that went through my head at that point in time, and Hannah was with me, and I'm just like, I just picked up a bag of meth. And she's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. But I didn't want the person that dropped it to find it, and I didn't want a kid to find it, and I didn't want to turn it into the store employee in case they used to have a problem with meth, because that's how it goes. So I was like, oh, do I put it in here? Like, right? We carry all of our, no, I'm not going to. And Ed was at my house, and I'm like, I can't bring you meth. Like, these are covered. I'm like, I can't do that. So I throw it in the garbage can, and I'm like, wow, thank God I didn't have a needle. That was so cool. Wow, that is the craziest thing. But none of us, so I had to say it. I had to say it out loud. I had to be honest. In that moment, I had to say, I just picked up a bag of meth. She's never done meth. She's never drank. She doesn't know that life, but I had to say it out loud, because otherwise that's when the enemy comes in and you think, no, just one. You can do one. You'll be fine. You got to fit into that wedding dress. I'm getting married in June. How cool is that? To an amazing guy. So cool. Yeah. And the enemy, he just tries to sneak in. And look at these beautiful people in my life. This is Carrie, and she made it here today. Thank you so much. And Trisha, and Alicia Doney, and Angie, and please. Okay, thank you so much. It's fine. There's a lot still happening inside here. So, okay. But these beautiful and wonderful people in my life, my family, my children, all healthy and happy. Oh my gosh, I'm just so thankful for the life that I have today, because it didn't used to be like this. And I put a lot of people through a lot of heartache, and I just didn't know. I used to see this lady driving down the street, singing and dancing with her kids in the car, and I'm just like, why is she so happy? Like, I'm miserable. Like, what is that? Why is she dancing with her kids? And I'm like, get in the car! Come on! Like, just miserable. Come on, hurry up, we gotta go. I would come and I would go, and I'm still broken. I still have stuff. I still have struggles. So shoplifting, you would go, you'd grab all the stuff, you'd come home, you'd dump it all off. I mean, my mom came into my house. Several people here have came into my house. My house is full of stolen merchandise. My house is full of garbage. At one point, I had mice in my house. My mom, in her uniform at one point, comes and she tells me, she's like, you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Carrie's gone at this point. I'm bawling. I'm crying. She's like, you have 2 beautiful babies. I'm like, She's like, 3? You're pregnant. You're having a baby? I'm like, ah! And she's just like, and this was God, because it was not my mother, everything's going to be fine. You're going to have another beautiful child, and everything's going to be, and she's the one who told me that was not her, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. No, what? Who is going to be happy about bringing another baby into this insanity? Nobody. But my mom and my stepdad and Ed and so many people, the women from Turning Point Open Bible, they reached out and they said, how can we help you? And I'm like, I just don't know. Like, my house is a mess, and I can't stand to be there. So they came, and they cleaned, and they helped me with laundry. And if anybody knows me, I hate laundry. I'm really, really not good at it, and I have 4 kids. So people would come, and they would help me do laundry. Like, if you need help doing laundry, I would love to come help you do laundry. If you need help, I'm not like the greatest cleaner, but I will do anything for you. If you need anything to help get you on your feet, because we cannot do this alone. We don't know how. Otherwise, we'd be doing it, right? I mean, we don't know how. I didn't know how to live sober. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to have a job. I didn't know how to wake up on time. My mom watched my children while I was working at the hospital, 7 on, 7 off graveyard, 70 hours in a row. Another thing that God did in my life, when I got clean and sober, I was taking care of Elmer Doney, and then I got clean and sober. No, I was sober while I was taking care of your grandpa, I promise. Sorry about that. But I was going to school, at phlebotomy school, and I was like, there's no way I can do this. And God sent people into my life that could help me do this, because I couldn't do it on my own. I was like, there's no way I'm smart enough to get through school. I was at the top of my class in my phlebotomy school. I got hired out, well, because phlebotomy is you draw blood, so you go play with needles. I was like, God, are you sure this is what you want me to do? You want me to go play with needles? I just got clean and sober from needles. Like, I just didn't get it. But I was really good at it. My friend Trisha is like, how long have you been doing this? I'm like, a long time. Been doing this a really long time. Yeah. So, and with her, I told her everything. I just was like, blah, and she's like, I wouldn't say that to everybody that works here. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'm so thankful for everybody in my life and everybody in my recovery. And I guess that's my story. I mean, so are we going to pray? And we have coin night tonight, so please celebrate with us.
So you pray.
Okay.
This out, and then we'll do coin.
I'm going to pray then. I guess I'll pray. Me and Sarah are going to pray, and she's going to cry. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, wow, I'm so thankful for everybody that's in this room, Lord Father God. I am so thankful for the transformation in each and every one of us, Lord. Thank you that your promises are new every day. Thank you that we are forgiven. Thank you for your grace, Lord Father God. Thank you so much for friendship and for health, Lord Father God. I'm just so amazed at what you continue to do out here at Northbridge. Thank you for the people. Thank you for the food bank, Lord. Thank you for Ben and Angie. And we just pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Woo! Okay.